Hello and welcome to episode 28 of When the Flames Go Up, the TFC podcast with me, Will Brown. And on this episode, we're talking about the weekend's games. Oldham at home, the 4-1 win, and Tamworth away, the 3-2 defeat. A mixed weekend for the shots. On the pod tonight, we've got Ash, Julian, and Joe and Ash for their first time this season. And yeah, if you've got any correspondence, any emails, any questions, or anything like that, then send it to atfcpodcast@gmail.com and I'll pick them up. Alternatively, you can follow us on X/Twitter at ATFC Podcast. And that's about it. Enjoy the episode and bon appetit. So, a mixed weekend for Aldershot. A big win against Oldham, followed by a disappointing defeat away at Tamworth on the bank holiday Monday. We're recording this now on Thursday, so it seems we're closer to the next game than we are the previous game, which is going to make this one slightly different. We're not normally recording on Thursdays, and we've got to cast our minds back quite a few days to the Oldham win, which we'll do to begin with. We've got Joe, Julian, and Ash on the pod tonight alongside me. I'm going to come to you first, Joe. You've not been on the pod this season. Firstly, how was your summer? And any thoughts from the Oldham 4-1 win?
Yeah, thanks, Will. It's nice to be back. I've been away on a honeymoon safaring in Uganda, so I managed to actually watch all three games with surprisingly good Wi-Fi connection. I was sat in a national park, not looking at elephants. I was watching Aldershot against Forest Green. It was, that's true commitment. But yeah, the Oldham game was brilliant, wasn't it? First half, was fairly evenly matched. And I think a lot of Oldham fans thought they perhaps could have been a couple of goals up. A lot of them thought they had really clear-cut chances, but I don't think they were. I think they were sort of half chances. We held it pretty well. Second half, one of the best second halves we've had for a long time. And I think that is mainly down to James Henry. I think I don't know whether Oldham hadn't done their research on him or whether they just couldn't stop him, but he was just sublime. His finishing is we're so used to National League finishing that I think I can't remember which, either his first or his second goal when he hit it between the Oldham players' legs and nestled it in the bottom corner. I don't think the keeper even knew what was happening. I'm sure there'll be lots more to say about it, but yeah, my main takeaway from that was James Henry's performance and I think our defensive solidity as well. Yeah, super result, and I think we seem to like playing Oldham at home. Let's play them every week.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have a retort when we play them away. Hopefully not
That's true.
the same as last time. But yeah, I echo those things. That's exactly what I wrote down. The finishing from Henry is like nothing we normally see. Grand. I'm going to come to you, Ash, next because you've not actually been on a live record yet. But yeah, how are your thoughts on the Oldham game?
Yeah, it's good to be back on here. I thought, as I said, words echoed from Joe, really. Great second half. I think the first half was very even. There was a point, I think it was 2-3-1, where Oldham was one-on-one with the keeper and he hit it straight at the goalkeeper. At that point, I thought, right, this is our day. This is going to be our day on it. Mentions, because I've been lucky enough to be able to go to, so far, every game of the season. Henry is one of our key three. I think a big shout out for Hargreaves this season in the midfield, and also Jenkins as well in the defence. I think those three players together have given us a big spine and a big backbone, and I think they help control the game, especially like in previous games. But against Oldham, as I say, they just didn't have an answer for us. It was really good to see, and on the Saturday it put us in a really good mood going forward, and it was a big statement to beat Oldham by that scoreline. I think it avenges the score from last season when we went to their ground and got battered there. So it's really pleasing to see. One of the best performances I've seen for a long time in the second half, though. It's really good to see.
Right. Yeah, and obviously he's going to get another mention, but yeah, James Henry scored twice and set up the third. I'm sure he wished he was in the box when the fourth happened and the the kind of rigmarole between Hayden Vaughan and Hady Gandor somehow conspiring not to score a goal. Please watch the highlights because it's hilarious watching it for a second time. Julian, finally, try and go 2 minutes without mentioning James Henry. That's the challenge for this week. But what were your thoughts on the Oldham 4-1 win?
Yeah, it was a really good game to be at, obviously, and quite interesting. Mickey Mellon's comments afterwards, basically blaming his defence for giving us all the goals. And my take on it was a tactical masterclass by Tommy, I think, because the formation changed very slightly. I felt it was more of a 4-3-3 with Henry pushing up on the right hand side, Corbett pushing up on the left hand side, and so it was really three up front for me. And I think Tommy did that because Oldham were playing with a bit more of a traditional flat back four, and so by pushing up on them, it sort of brought the team 20 yards further up the pitch, which meant that a lot of the game was being played in their half. And if you look at the goals, then the Oldham defence did make some mistakes, and I think that was because our guys were pushing up on them. I'm thinking of the goal where Tyler Frost sort of was into that sort of front left-hand role, putting pressure on, won the ball in there, fed Gandor, who then fed Henry. Oh, sorry, I mentioned James Henry, and he put it away with his amazing finishing. So I guess any team will look at their own misfortunes. If you look back to our Braintree game, we'll say that we didn't defend particularly well, whereas the Braintree supporters will be saying they played superbly. So I think it's quite a normal sort of reaction from the Oldham side of things. But echoing the other boys, I'd love to play Oldham every week at this rate. We seem to just have it on them, and a great all-round performance, which I think, as Joe mentioned at the start, I think a few people did sort of take up and take notice of that result. Probably in a similar way, they also took notice of the Tamworth result, but we'll talk about that too.
Absolutely. And it closes off the first kind of two home games, which on paper I didn't really consider them as, obviously they were the two bigger home games of the season, Forest Green and Oldham. They are going to be probably in those playoff spots. So to come away with 4 points from those. And as you said, like a statement win. Let's run through the goals. We've mentioned them a little bit, but James Henry in the first half, seizing on that one was probably a mistake by Oldham, but the ball falls to him in the area, but seemingly takes as much time as he needs, as much time as he feels is necessary to slot it home past the keeper. And I think even with that first one, I think he gives the keeper the eyes. I think he thinks he might be putting it in the other corner and puts it near post. And then James Henry in the second half then doubled our lead with that goal that Joe mentioned, straight through the legs, just a kind of side foot into the bottom corner in front of the East Bank. And then we had Oldham's goal. What was their goal? Oh, it was the bit of pinball in the box, but we had Brian Jones kind of going in for a slide tackle against Ogle. And then Ogle somehow scoring from a mad angle in the 60th minute. So that was a couple of minutes after we'd gone 2-0 up. And then, Julian, as you mentioned, the Frost's kind of change into the centre attacking mid or left-hand side thing. It came about, I think, because Uche Boulan was destroying him on that left-hand side. Defensively, couldn't keep up with him. He was faster. He was, I think he was just a step ahead of him. But he went off on 60 minutes anyway. So then we had Akpan up against Jake Caprice, and that duo didn't really cause us any grief after that. And obviously those two combined, James Henry's ball through to Akpan, and then Akpan's cross to Frost, who scored his first goal in front of the East Bank. Joe, any thoughts on the goals, and do you want to run us through the Hayden Vaughan Gandor mix up at the end for the penalty?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favourite goal of the four was the breakaway goal scored by Frost. I think that's the epitome of with ball or whatever we're calling it, that quick breakaway, lovely cross by Akpan. And then Frost, I mean, watching it live and then also seeing the replays, it's hard almost to see it because the camera doesn't quite keep up with the counter attack. You almost sort of can't quite see how he actually puts it in the net, but it looks like it kind of sort of hits him, or he sort of scorpions it. I can't really tell, but absolutely fantastic, fantastic finish, fantastic goal. Yeah, like you say, the Hayden Vaughan not quite finishing his dinner and at the end there. I felt for him really because he's not had many minutes yet, and that was probably a bit shocked to have come on. And then when he did come on, he's the one quick easy chance he had, he couldn't score. But thankfully at that stage of the game, whether he scored or not, it didn't really matter. And then obviously Gandar not finishing it off, and then the handball was just quite comedic, wasn't it? And then even then the penalty afterwards, it wasn't very good, but it went in. So yeah, it's quite an amusing end to the game. But yeah, beating Oldham 4-1 at home. With a good selection of goals, it makes for a really, really good Saturday, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we can win and get a laugh out loud moment at the end of the game, I mean, that's worth the season ticket money already. Ash, what are your thoughts on the goals, either scored or conceded?
I thought very well taken. I know Oldham said that they made the mistakes in order for us to make the goals, but if you don't take the mistakes and create the goals, then it's just you're not gonna get anywhere. So you've already took my favourite, Joe. It's the best goal because obviously he's deserved it for us. But Akpan is looking to be a great player on that side for us. Even in the other game we're going to come on to, he seemed to really fit into that spot really well. And I know Tommy likes him as well. But it was great to see his debut get an assist, which was fantastic.
Lovely stuff. And Julian, any thoughts on the goals? But also, obviously, you mentioned a kind of masterclass from Tommy. Mickey Mellon, as I mentioned, he kind of took off his best player, Uche Bolam, after 60 minutes, which I think it was in order to get 90 out of him against Gateshead on Monday. Whereas the shots at Tamworth were making 6 changes to the starting 11. What were your thoughts on the goals? And do you think there was a case that we maybe should have looked ahead to Monday, fitness-wise, a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, Will, because for me, when they made that substitution, I was scratching my head a little bit, thinking, well, they've just taken off potentially their most dangerous player for us, and putting Jake Caprice on a left-back role when he's a right back for starters, just seemed a bit odd. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think he had almost given up on the game and was preparing for Monday. But just with the goals, just a couple of other pointers on there. Again, James Henry took up a great position for the ball through to Akpan. He found his space just inside the sort of centre circle, and within one movement he had seen the run already, and that's the difference, I think, between what he can offer at the moment. He's got some great vision, and just to see Akpan herring down the right hand side with Jake Caprice in his tailwind was a great sight. And of course the cross and as you said, Joe, the scorpion finish, it was just a great moment. And of course we all knew what that meant to Tyler to get that goal. But the concern for the Oldham goal that they scored, I was just a little bit concerned about Ryan Jones. And you mentioned the sort of slide tackle, and with those, you really need to make them and to clear the ball and just get rid of it, in my eyes. And when that goal went in, I was a little bit concerned about whether Ryan would be playing on Monday, and was actually hoping if Ollie Harfield was back that he could perhaps take up the left wing back role for Monday. But I saw Thomas' reaction when the goal went in, and he wasn't best pleased. But every game there's things to work on, isn't there? And I'm sure that the players knew exactly what they needed to do after Saturday evening, even though we'd won 4-1. But you make an interesting point about making the changes, and perhaps when we talk about the Tamworth game, we can elaborate on that a little bit and get everyone else's thoughts on whether Tommy made a glaring mistake or whether his hand was forced or what.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Ryan Jones thing, I think, to be honest, I think if he slides in with the defense fully set, he's always got someone behind him. It's fine. But the way there was players pulled out marking other people, that there was just a big gaping hole behind him. So if he loses the ball there, he's going to rush into the box. I'm not sure. It was interesting on the highlights. They did kind of say that Tommy was kind of calling for a foul, that Ogle was kind of holding Ryan Jones back before he got off the ground. But I mean, I couldn't see anything on the replay. It looked like he just got in front of him, and I've no idea how it went in. I've watched it 3 times, and I haven't really got a clue how it's sneaked past Dewhurst. Grand. Well, let's move on to the Tamworth 3-2 defeat on Bank Holiday Monday. I'm going to come to you first, Joe. You were there. We didn't cross paths, but we were nearly in the same pub for the first time ever. What were your thoughts, overall thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was a reading. If it's best to stay off social media after games like Monday, because you'd think our season is over and it's the worst thing that's ever happened, and we've gone backwards and all that. And I'm totally in the other camp. I'm really not overly worried about the performance or the result. When I got there, at half an hour before kickoff, I saw Jenkins limp past me in front, and then I saw Magoma limp past me, both in full tracksuits, and I thought, they're not starting, are they? So without those two against one of the most physical sides in the league with some of the biggest players, I thought we're done for here, because I don't see how you can defend against a team like Tamworth without matching them physically in the defence. And then when you saw the teams come out and you saw the physical difference, I thought, and then they started launching those long throws into the box from the halfway line. It's a really, if anyone is not there, really small pitch with really unpredictable bounces. It was always going to be a tough ask. They don't actually concede many. They're one of the best defences in the league, in the whole country last season, actually. Kept a ridiculous amount of clean sheets. It was always going to be a tough match. And I thought they were very effective at what they did. I think I was slightly disappointed that, having gone 1-0 down from exactly the sort of goal we'll be describing with regards to their physicality, I was slightly disappointed that when we equalised, we then obviously didn't hold out. But if you look at the physicality of I think it was particularly our left side of defence, it was such a mismatch. And Tamworth are really, really good at sort of nipping in front for the second ball and reading the bounce of their pitch. I've felt a little bit like we had chances as well to not only probably draw the game, but actually to win it. Even that sounds crazy, having been 3-1 down, but the Akpan's header, I was stood right behind that. It looked easier to score, and then Corbett's chance as well, when he sort of did excellent footwork. And I think a lot of people aren't realizing how much of an actual good footballer he is. Yes, he hasn't scored yet, but I think he's getting a lot of unnecessary stick. He should have scored then as well, but again, poked it over the bar. I think probably quite desperate to score and maybe panicked a little bit. One thing I did write down about Kai Corbett actually was, I really hope he isn't the next Matt McClure. That's just a name I have in my head watching him, just because he keeps creating well. He looks really skillful, but he just can't seem to hit a barn door at the moment. But he was in pre-season, and I think maybe like Gandor, he just needs a goal for a bit of confidence. There's lots more to say about this game, but I'll just see what comes up. I won't speak for ages otherwise.
Nice, yeah. I've kind of noted down that the Corbett thing, but also there's two chances that he has. There's one where he loses balance in the box about 10 yards out, with a lovely bit of play with him and Henry. Henry goes back to Hargreaves, and it's a lovely move. We've penned them back onto the penalty spot, and we should, I don't know, a player with a lot more confidence or had scored, would have probably just scored a brace within 3 minutes, and it would have been a different game. I suppose, let's run through the goals. So I've forgotten his name, so apologies to the Tamworth centre back. Opened the scoring with a back post header, marked by Jenkins, not Jenkins Bird. set piece goals are going to be a theme, regardless. To only concede from one was quite good, to be honest, considering the number of long throws into the box and balls into the box. Barham opened his account for this season, a ball through from Tetek in the 32nd minute. That's how it stayed till half time. And then, we had kind of a mix up between Menezes and Mullins. And they've given the ball away in the 50th minute to let them in. And then 5 minutes later, we are 3-1 down. It's a brilliant goal. The last two goals are absolutely, they'll be up there in the top 10 goals of the season, I imagine. But Tetek tries to play a ball around the corner to set free. I'm not sure who was actually out on the side. And it falls to Tisakuna, I think, who runs through and batters it in the top left-hand corner from 20 yards. And then, as Joe mentioned, we had the chance for Akpan. He's heading it from about 6-yard box. Should score. Corbett has to score. Probably he pokes it. If it goes in the top corner, it's a great, brilliant finish. But just get your laces through it. Stick it in the bottom corner. And then the losing balance one as well. But then we finish with James Henry plonking the ball into the stanchion in the corner. Stanchion in the corner in like the 90 plus 14 minutes, because there were 17 minutes added on. I will now stop talking. Ash, what did you think of the Tamworth game from your point of view?
It's typical of our club. We go and beat Oldham, and then we go and lose to Tamworth away. Kind of in the camp with Joe, when the team selection came out, I was like, that's too many changes. I arrived I was in the bar until late, so I didn't catch Jenkins limping and Macoma limping, so I didn't see that part. So part of me was kind of like, 6 changes, that's a lot of changes, but we don't know the circumstances behind the changes behind. Obviously, they took the lead quite early on. And again, it comes back to, I think, without Hargreaves making some of the blocks, the tackles that he made, we could have been 2 or 3 in the first half. I didn't think we played at all where we've been in the first half. But again, Tamworth, I believe, has the narrowest pitch I think I've ever seen. It's ridiculous, but they play their game. They play it well. We knew that we're going to play like that. And it was quite interesting to hear Tommy's team talk about it, that he feels that some of the performances in there, he felt just weren't up to par, weren't up to scratch from some of the players. And I think it's some of the players that haven't played before, but don't want to read too much into it. But yeah, the goal for Tamworth, the third one, it was Shikuna, I think it was absolutely top drawer. If that was one of our players talking about it, we'd be talking about it for, half the episode. It was that good a goal. I don't think you can take anything away from them. They played well. They did a job on us. They probably looked at the Braintree match and kind of went, right, that's how we're going to play against us. We've now got to deal with that in the future. That's going to be the big thing. So I think teams are now going to, when we go to their ground, they're going to play physical and make sure we can't get in the game. We just need to be able to deal with that. As I say, I'm not getting too down about it. It was just a little bit of a shame that the Oldham result was undone. But as we get on to later, actually our season isn't going so bad as what some people might have thought on Monday on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. We are only 5 games in. and I think also what you're saying about kind of teams will be physical with us. Oldham were also trying it on Saturday with the long throws, which were finding the penalty spot with ease and getting into the 6-yard box. So I think we are going to be targeted, and they had chances to score from headers as well. I can't. I always try and have a look in the highlights to try and find a solution, but I don't know, because all I say is, why isn't anyone attacking it? But obviously, it's not a very good coach thing to say, is it? I'm not. If that was my team talk, we would still lose. So, Julian, what were your thoughts on the Tamworth 3-2 defeat?
Literally 100% what Ash said. That's it. Everything Ash said, I was going to say myself, to be honest. It was, when I saw the team sheet, we obviously don't know what's going on in the background. So we don't know whether it was, let's make 6 changes because I trust my squad, and every single player in my squad, I know I can call on whenever I need to. But for me, if you have a choice, then you don't change a winning team, even if it's 48 hours later, or perhaps you make one or two changes. But I think, when I saw the team sheet too, I was a little bit nervous. I haven't done any investigations, but I'd be interested to see how many changes Tamworth made from the weekend as well. Because at the end of the day, we should be able to match a Tamworth. But again, what Ash said, I was 100% on board with. I think what they've done is they've done a good job on us. They have probably looked at the Braintree result and gone very similar to that. And I just think it's one of those things that we've got to really learn from, I think. And it's happened twice to us now, so we need to really think about how we're going to approach these sorts of games. But of course, if we'd beaten Tamworth, then we'd be in third place. Tommy would be the new Messiah, and we would all be having a great conversation tonight. So we're still only, I think, 2 points off third. So as Ash said, and you said, Will, there's only a few games gone, and there's so much in it. And Woking have won 3 games in a row, gone from not scoring in their first 2 games to being third, I think, or something ridiculous like that. So really early days. The one word for me, I guess, is that we need to bear in mind is consistency. You see on social media some of our players getting a bit of a hard time, played really well in one game, not so well in another. But if they were super consistent, they would be playing Championship level or League One, and that's why they're with us. And a lot of them are still young and learning. So let's as you guys have said, let's move on. Let's look at the Maidenhead game, and let's learn some lessons.
Great, thank you. And that did give me time to see how many changes Tamworth made, which I think is 4 to the starting lineup. Although there was, I think, a Tishikuna, who scored the goal, got subbed off in the 39th minute, so I presume he had a knock. But 4 changes. Whereas we had 6, and 2 of those were definitely injuries. I mean, let's not read into it all too much. But we have got quite a few injuries now, it seems. So that'll be interesting.
Speaking of injuries, that was one of the most bizarre injury stoppages in that Tamworth game I've ever seen. But so what was it? About over 10 minutes, I think it was. And Frost, by the sounds of it, dislocated his finger. Was the outcome I've heard. So if you dislocate your finger, I mean, I'm not a medic, but you can probably walk off the pitch, can't you? I don't know. It's just because it seemed odd for us. We wouldn't time waste in that situation. So it's just very, very strange whether we were buying time if he needed proper treatment, perhaps to tactically keep him on the pitch so we weren't down to 10. I don't really know. But then he did end up coming off, which was even stranger, and then we ended up with 17 minutes added on. Very, very strange.
Yeah, it was, but that was bizarre. I think, him getting subbed off after being subbed on, and he clearly was having to go at the communication between the sidelines was obviously dreadful because he didn't want to come off. he thought if he gets treatment on the pitch, then he'll be fine. Like, he'll be able to play on. And then Corbett comes off the bench, which it could have turned out to be a great change, to be honest, if Corbett had scored twice with the chances he had at the end there. Grand. So I'm sure we'll be talking about the lineup for the next part, which is the next game. Maidenhead at home, our old foes. Last season was a mixed bag, really. They were 2-0 up at the Rec, in a bit of a shock. What the hell's going on here? Why Maidenhead suddenly brilliant at football? Before Barham scored 2 in a minute in the first half, and then Toland scored, I think, in like the early 80 minutes, and then right at the end to make it 4-2 and seem like a comfortable win. It was in that kind of patch where we were winning games at home from ludicrous positions. Obviously, the return fixture was slightly different. It was 2-0 down in 6 minutes, so hard to know what to expect other than it being Alan Devonshire and his men coming down to the Rec. Joe, I'm going to start with you. How are you feeling ahead of Maidenhead at home at the weekend?
It's just a brilliant National League fixture, isn't it? Aldershot against Maidenhead. I just hope if Christian Magoma's playing, he lasts longer than he did in the away fixture last season, which was one of the most impressive sending offs I've ever seen. I think he was on the pitch for 2 minutes, was he, or something like that. But yeah, any Alan Devonshire side, any Alan Devonshire Maidenhead side is a really, really tough ask. I think they seem to just go through patches where they look like they're guaranteed to get relegated, and then they'll hit a run of playoff form and end up finishing mid-table. They've got a strong physical side again this year. They have spent a little bit of money. Forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the player who they got the. They've made a lot of money from a player sale. This is bad research for a podcast, sorry, but yeah, they've a lot of money, wasn't it? So I don't know how much of that they've invested in the squad, but it can't have done any damage to sort of helping the confidence there, and probably the wages and strengthening their squad overall, probably a bit bigger than it was last season. So yeah, I'd hate to predict it, but you're making me. So I think at home we seem to be very free scoring at the moment. I don't see that changing. Will we hold up defensively against them? I think that depends a lot on whether Jenkins and Magoma play. I think if they both play, we've got, as where we saw at Halifax, if we've got that what looks like our first choice defence, bar Harfield, we look a really solid defensive unit. And then when we don't have those two, as was the case on Monday, we look the total opposite. So yeah, it very much depends on that. If they're both playing, I think we win the game 3-1. If they don't, a scrappy 2-2.
Is Joe referring to the Max Kilman sale to West Ham, which was 40 million and they got 10% of it or something?
That's the one.
The knock on. Lovely stuff.
It's funny because I think that could go against them in a weird way, because Devonshire's built his teams over the years on finding gems, rough diamonds, and polishing them up and selling them on. And you could argue he doesn't have to do that anymore. So it'd be really interesting to see whether he does get the money to splash out. I know they're going to be putting it into a lot of the infrastructure, but it'd be really interesting to see whether it changes what he's done over the years, because there's the good old argument: you don't change it if it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They seem to have signed. They've still signed from teams below them, with a couple of free loan signings. They've got Lati Fairweather back from York, and Owen Cochrane from Stevenage, and Joshua Johnson from Oxford. So we'll see those again on Saturday. Ash, how are you feeling ahead of the Maidenhead game?
Yeah, I'm a little bit on the pessimistic side, and it's mainly because of the knee-jerk of the last game. I think, as it's been said, Maidenhead will come prepared. They will see how other teams have beaten us, not necessarily at home, but away. But I think they'll always apply that style. So last time we were 2-0 down, and we had to fight and claw our way back. I do think we have more than enough to beat them. It's just there is that element of doubt in the back of your head after the last result. We tend to be very solid at home. If you're going to give me a score prediction, I still think the defence is going to be as leaky as it has been, but we're going to be free scoring. So I think we'll be going 3-2 to Aldershot. I think we'll actually maybe go behind as well at the start and pull it back for a 3-2, and that would leave us, the fans, going home happy with a good result. Moving on to the next one, sure, it's going to be Rochdale, isn't it?
Nice. And Julian, what are your thoughts on the Maidenhead game? And if you've got a score prediction, stick it out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one, I think. There's a few things I think need to happen. So I'm hoping that Jack Barham starts. His fitness is getting better. I think he's got 90 minutes in him, and unfortunately that means probably a Corbett on the bench. But I know he needs a goal desperately. But the thing with Corbett is you've got to remember it's his first season in men's football, and I don't think from memory or research that he went down the usual path of going out on loan to get some experience. So this is his first season really in men's football, and he does need a bit of time. And I'm really hopeful that all the supporters can see some of the really good things he's done. I think, Joe, you mentioned it earlier on about some really good footwork in there, and he seems to have a really good football brain. So he's linked up with Henry quite a few times quite nicely, and I just think he needs a goal really to get him going. But I would expect Barham to start on Saturday and to see Corbett on the bench. The other thing I want to just mention is about Menezes. Now if when he came to on loan last time, he did have a ropey 2 or 3 games before he really sort of kicked in and played really well. And again, you got to remember that he has not played a full 90 minutes for probably 5 months now. So it is going to take him 3 or 4 games to get back into the swing of things. So I think we're going to need his fight on Saturday. So it wouldn't surprise me if he starts alongside Makoma if they're both ready and willing to do so. It's going to be a set piece bonanza on Saturday for sure. So yeah, I'm hoping that Tommy has been working on set piece defending because, as the guys have already said, if there's an early set piece and we go behind, then things are going to get difficult. My player to look out for on Saturday for Maidenhead is Reece Smith. Reece is a really talented lad. I watched him at the England C game earlier on this year, and he was the standout player in that game. He's quite tricky, runs with the ball, got a lot of pace, and he could be a danger. I think he scored actually on Bank Holiday against Barnet, so he's going to be one to look out for. But yeah, score prediction, I think it's going to be similar to the other games. We're going to see lots of goals, lots of chances. We're going to see a James Henry cool, calm finish as well. And I think we will win 3-1.
Right. Wins all around. I will go 2-1. But yeah, as you mentioned, Reece Smith, he did score. He scored twice against Barnet on Monday, which obviously shows you just what this league is all about. Pace setters or whatever you want to call them, Barnet or pre-season favourites. So yeah, Maidenhead were winless in their first 4 games, and then 3-1 home win against Barnet. Alan Massey still at the back. You'll recognise him as soon as you see him. And Kevin Loco, who played for the Shots and obviously was at Farnborough last year. Well, last year might have been the year before. I'm not sure. You'll recognise him as well. And Craig Ross in goal. So it'll feel like home. Seeing Maidenhead turn up at the Rec. Grand. Well, as we're talking about teams like Maidenhead beating teams like Barnet, let's have a little look at the National League after 5 games. So we'll try and check in on this every 5 games because it feels nice, and rounded. So Eastleigh are setting the pace with 13 points. Paul McCallum is obviously scoring, I think, on average like 1 a game. I think he's scored 5 so far in 5, 2 braces in there.
If Eastleigh win the National League, I'm just quitting football. You won't see me again.
1 season of not playing them would be nice, though, wouldn't it?
It would. That's true.
Oh dear. Well, yeah, Gateshead are 2 points behind.
I forgot about your loving with Eastleigh, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, I hate them so much.
Yeah, we've got quite a hateful top 5, really, haven't we? We've got Eastleigh, Gateshead, Sutton United, Woking, and Barnet.
At least we lost Boreham Wood.
For 1 season only. We'll trade back Sutton again. Yeah, so the usual suspects really in the top 6. We've got both of the relegated sides, Sutton and Forest Green, and yeah, Woking, Barnet, Gateshead, and a surprise. I'm not sure if it's a surprise, but Eastleigh currently setting the pace. And at the bottom, unfortunately, it is Danny Searle's Ebbsfleet who are currently on 1 point, -9 goal difference. And we can sound the alarm. That's the first goal difference bell that's been mentioned. Aldershot are on +2, by the way. So, yeah. Joe, what are your early thoughts on the first 5 games of the National League?
So I was just, when you mentioned Ebbsfleet there, I was having a look at their lineup from the other day, and they are like Aldershot retirement home. It's quite interesting. About half their lineup were ex-Aldershot. But yeah, first 5 games of the season. I won't be too dismissive, but I just think looking at the table at this stage of the season is interesting, but I do find it fairly meaningless. And if you flip that entire league table for the end of the season, it wouldn't be that surprising. But I suppose you could say a couple of the teams that are up there are teams you'd expect. Forest Green, sort of 6th at the moment. They're one of those teams I think can be a bit of a slow burner, but I do think they will be top two come the end of the season. Barnet have got a lot of new signings and sort of stuttering slightly, but that loss against Maidenhead was a bit of a shock actually. If you look down the bottom, Boston got one away at York, which was, I think, was the biggest shock of the weekend actually. Then barely got anything all season, and York were looking pretty strong, and then Boston went away and got a result there. I was speaking to my York friend, and apparently York at 0-0 went 4-2-4, and went really gung ho, and then it massively backfired, which is an interesting one because they've got Hinshelwood there as their manager, and they seem to be. Yeah, he was known for being very attacking. Maybe that worked in the National League South, but trying that in the National League sort of seems to have backfired. Rogue tactics like that. Yeah, it's an interesting, really interesting start to the season. But I think as Tommy says, I was watching his pre-Maidenhead interview. He said he almost wishes there wasn't a table at the moment because he's much more interested in the team gelling and how your team plays and building towards performances and building that squad, getting them to gel. So yeah, it's interesting, but I don't take too much credence in it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ash, any surprises for you in the current table?
Obviously, the Eastleigh one being top, I think no one would have put that, but they're there for a reason. They've earned it. I know as much Joe doesn't like them, and a lot of our fan base don't like them. They're there for a reason. They've done well for the last 5 games. I've watched the highlights from most of the games. I think the team to watch out the pack from the highlights package I've seen is Gateshead. I think they're looking really strong this year. It'd be interesting if they do win the league. Do they go up? Do they not with their stadium? Woking, fair play to them. I've not watched much on them, but I hadn't predicted them down near the bottom like most people. I put them sort of mid-table with us, but I put us above. But at the moment, they're winning that. It looks like they're going to have a roller coaster of a season like us as well. The usual suspects of Barnet and Forest Green, eventually, I think they'll start moving up. My dark horse for the season is Hartlepool. I think they're very, very strong. They had a freak result against Woking, I feel. They went down to 10 men, just a moment of madness in their game. But the one team that people put near the top that's interestingly quite near the bottom, I'm quite worried about, is Halifax. Very, very, I don't see where their goals are going to come from. They've scored 4 goals in 5 games. They won the first game of the season. They've seemed to be in a really bad trip of form. And all it takes is for them to be down there in 10, 15 games in the season and they're in a struggle. I just don't see where their goals are going to come from. But other than that, in the bottom area, usual suspects that people would probably put there, Ebbsfleet, Boston, Wealdstone, Maidenhead, Braintree and Tamworth. We've given 2 wins to the bottom 6. So it's got Ebbsfleet soon and they ain't won yet. So we'll see how that goes on that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the how to look at the table, really, isn't it? It's where other teams going to get points off Aldershot. And yeah, Tamworth are obviously languishing on 2 points on Monday. Julian, what do you think? Oh, the only thing I was going to mention was that obviously Barnet are on 9 points, but their 2 defeats have been obviously Maidenhead, but also Halifax as well. Halifax's only win so far on the opening day. So they've had 2 weird results, Barnet, out of the first 5 games. Julian, what do you think of the table after 5 games?
Yeah, it's. I think we've said it before. It's really hard to tell what's going to happen. I'm actually going to show my age now, and this is something which will surprise probably all of you because you're all young chaps. But back in the late 70s, when I used to follow football, there was no league table for about 3 or 4 games, and you did what Tommy said. You basically sorted your team out, you played your games, and then you sort of saw where you were after about 4 games. So, but now with all the technology and all these young kids running around, you get a table after sort of 10 minutes of the first 10 minutes of the season. So that's progress for you. But back to the teams, yeah, usual suspects up there. Forest Green, you've got to remember they've played, I think, 3 away games and only 1 at home. So yeah, they've got some home games to come. So I'd expect them to be up there. Barnet, even though they've lost a couple of surprising ones, they've got such a big squad again, and obviously recently acquired Ryan Glover. So it'd be interesting to see how he fits in to their model. I agree with Ash, actually. I think Gateshead are the standout team. So for me, it's going to be Gateshead, and then it could be anyone from 10 as the season sort of starts to pan out. I think Solihull probably in a bit of a false position at the moment. They've made some really good signings over the summer, and they will come good. And again, if you're looking at the table, I think Solihull are lower mid-table, but they're only a victory away from, again, top 5 as well. So it really is early days. Looking at the bottom, Ebbsfleet obviously down there, really struggling at the moment. Interesting point I saw on ShotsWeb, someone mentioned about the sort of Tyler Cordner effect and the fact that actually everywhere he goes, they leak goals. It could be something in that, possibly. He's, we saw him for all the good points, but even we were leaking goals when he was with us. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I'm just praying that Danny Searle doesn't get sacked the week before we play them, because if he does, then again, we're on for a loss there, probably with the new manager effect. But it's going to be a long season, I think, for Ebbsfleet. And although we've shown given Braintree and Tamworth some victories, I think they're going to struggle as well. It's going to be a long season for them. But let's see what it's like after 10, and I think we'll have a little bit more of an idea, how it's starting to shape up after 10.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I did forget about the Forest Green home games effect, which might also see them shoot up the table or plummet. Who knows? It's only 5 games, but we'll check in at 10 games and see where things have changed and where the shots are.
6 shots at Ebbsfleet by the looks of it.
And they're all timers, aren't they? They're all timer names.
Yeah, Tyler Cordner, Jim Kellerman, Giles Phillips, Toby Edser, Craig Tanner, and Kwame Thomas.
Oh, I didn't see Kwame Thomas. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I tell you what, that's a player I really miss from last season. I think he didn't get enough appreciation, and it's not even a jokey point, genuine point. We massively miss him as a plan B at the moment. Tamworth, last 10 minutes of the game, last 5 minutes after we equalise, after we pull one back, to have just a Kwame Thomas to lump it into and just get a knock on. You never know. That's the sort of game where we might have scraped a point, like against Wealdstone away last season when we got the 3-0. That sort of game is crying out for a big man up front.
Do you guys think that there's a budget to bring in a forward? Have we got a little stash of money that's going to bring in a forward? I was looking at the some of the free agents that are available at the moment, and I'll tell you what, there's some really good names in there, but whether or not there's enough money in the pot to bring in another forward, or whether he's just waiting for Ollie Bray to come back. And because I thought he was quite impressive during pre-season. So I would love to see a Kwame Thomas come in, but I'm just wondering whether we've spent the budget and we just got to work with what we've got.
You make a good point there, Julian, that we do have Ollie Bray. It's just unfortunately he's injured, and he is a big target man, really, isn't he? I suppose maybe he was viewed as that type of player, but just very unfortunate that he's picked up an injury so quickly.
Yeah, and as you say, it's usually also that plan B when things aren't quite going right or we're away, and it's the last half an hour, so it's probably a hard sell as well for someone to come in. I'm assuming Kwame Thomas probably wanted more minutes last season as well. On that, but we'll see. Obviously, the transfer window slams shut soon, but that doesn't really matter for us on free transfers and loans. I'm sure they'll be flying this way and that in the next couple of weeks. Great. Well, let's end it there. That was a full hour. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Ash, and thank you, Joe.